An aggressive tourist shoved a royal guard, convinced his influence made him untouchable. But karma struck back, so quickly that even the palace walls seemed to echo the lesson. Before we move on, let us know in the comments where you're watching from, and if you believe in respect for those who serve, subscribe so you never miss another story of dignity in action. It's late morning at the Grand Royal Palace. The summer sun bounces off the intricately carved stone archways, and the courtyard is teeming with curious tourists. They come from every corner of the world, cameras at the ready, eager to capture the famous changing of the guard ceremony, a colourful tradition passed down through generations. Among the throng of uniformed guards stands Sergeant Daniel Hayes, a figure as unyielding as the palace columns themselves. His polished boots rest firmly on the cobblestone, his red tunic meticulously pressed, and his gaze fixed straight ahead. For the uninitiated, he might appear stoic or unfeeling, but beneath that exterior is a soldier who has seen both the harsh battlegrounds of conflict and the ceremonial grandeur of peacetime. The discipline he carries is more than a job requirement. It is the essence of respect. Respect for history, for traditions that outlive individuals, and for the countless lives once entrusted to him. Today, there's a peculiar energy in the air. The usual bustling and chatter seem tinged with a restless anticipation, as though something hangs on the horizon. Parents shepherd their children closer to the lines of guards, reminding them not to cross the ropes. Elderly veterans stand with postures almost mirroring the guards, silent testaments to a shared understanding of duty. The role of the ceremonial guard is partly performance, but every guard stationed here is a soldier first, one who has pledged to defend the very palace and monarchy they represent. Hayes has worn this uniform for years, and he shoulders it with pride, unmoved by the routine, jests and occasional minor taunts from overzealous tourists. Near the main entrance stands Michael Cartwright, flanked by 3 or 4 friends who mirror his well-dressed, expensive style. He's in his late 20s, wearing a designer shirt and shiny shoes, and he holds up his phone to record a live video for his thousands of followers. Michael thrives on social media attention. He's built an entire persona around traveling the globe, flaunting luxurious experiences and stirring up controversy wherever he goes. His entourage, always eager to feed off his fame, encourages every outlandish stunt he concocts. When he focuses his camera on Sergeant Hayes, the wheels in his mind are already spinning. This guard, stoic and silent, would make perfect viral content, especially if he can provoke some reaction. Michael's cocksure grin widens at the thought. He angles his phone for the best shot, microphone capturing his sarcastic commentary. "Look at this guy," he snickers. "They just stand there like statues. Don't think they can talk. Maybe he's a robot." His followers respond in the live chat, egging him on with reactions and laughing emojis. Emboldened, Michael edges closer to Hayes, crossing the roped boundary meant to keep a respectful distance. It's not the first time Hayes has faced such behavior. He remains statue still, eyes forward. A few passers-by pause, curiosity piqued by Michael's loud tone. Little do they know they're about to witness an unfolding confrontation between unearned arrogance and unshakable duty. Michael's first attempts at provocation are mild by his standards. He makes faces inches from Hayes's shoulder, leers into the soldier's line of sight, trying to get a twitch or a flicker of annoyance. But Hayes doesn't flinch. The guard has been through countless training drills designed to condition him not to respond to trivial taunts. Michael's phone continues streaming live. His audience, bored with minor teasing, begins clamoring for something more extreme. Push him. Test the tough guy. He's not going to do anything. He's basically a mannequin. Michael, always in search of greater clicks and attention, decides to escalate. He marches awkwardly around Hayes, comically mimicking the guard's stiff posture. Every so often, he stumbles into a dramatic salute, inciting laughter from his friends and a few onlookers who think it's all harmless fun. But others in the crowd shift uneasily. Some shoot worried glances at each other. They sense the disrespect, the underlying malice. An older man in a veteran's cap gently shakes his head, a subtle expression of disapproval. A mother covers her young daughter's eyes, uncomfortable with the mockery. The palace stands timeless behind them, an ancient reminder of honor and sacrifice, while Michael casually cheapens the ceremony for fleeting views and likes. It's in the hush of mounting tension that things finally boil over. Unable to provoke a verbal reaction, Michael decides to up the ante. He steps closer, far too close, and plants himself directly in Hayes's path. The guard, in the middle of a slow, measured turn, finds his way obstructed. Michael sees the flicker of conflict in Hayes's eyes, and for a split second, satisfaction curls his lips. Then, with an aggressive shove, Michael pushes the guard's shoulder. The moment feels suspended in time as gasps echo across the courtyard. Cameras freeze, mouths open, disbelief hangs in the air. Hayes stumbles a step backward, caught off guard by the brazen physical attack. But even as he regains his stance, his training takes over. The priority for any soldier is control, over a situation, over an emotional response, over any rush of anger. The hush following that shove is deafening. The unstoppable bullet of Michael's arrogance has collided with the immovable wall of Hayes's discipline, and the crowd stands breathless to see what comes next. For a flicker of a second, Hayes tightens his jaw. His mind races through the protocol. Physically, he has every right to defend himself, to restrain the aggressor if necessary. But the weight of tradition and the measured restraint demanded by his duty take precedence. He understands that a single impulsive move could tarnish the ceremonial guard's global reputation and overshadow the dignity he represents. When Hayes finally moves, it's with a slow, deliberate grace. He straightens his uniform, adjusts his belt, and locks eyes with Michael. If fury stirs within him, he does not show it. Instead, he breathes deeply, then speaks for the first time. "You see a uniform and think it's for your amusement," he says in a calm, resonant voice. His tone isn't loud or threatening. It's the voice of someone speaking a truth he's carried for years. But this uniform stands for centuries of service. It represents the men and women who gave their all so you could have the freedom to mock. I've buried fellow soldiers who never came home to see days like this. If my silence offends you, that is your choice. But I stand here so that all of us, even you, can walk free. Every word lands with astounding force. The crowd, still silent, finds itself moved by the sincerity. This is not a performance or a scolding. It is a deeply personal testament to values and sacrifices that transcend the moment. Michael, once reveling in his bravado, looks around with the dawning awareness that the crowd is no longer on his side. Some even begin to boo him. The phone in his hand continues streaming, capturing his uncomfortable shift from arrogance to something resembling panic. Viewers typing furiously on his live stream no longer cheer him on. Instead, they condemn his disrespect. Sponsors who had once supported him for his high engagement might now be questioning their association with someone so brazenly ill-mannered. Palace security arrives quickly. Their firm presence radiates authority, and Michael's entourage shrinks back. For the first time, Michael hesitates. He tries to protest, stammering excuses about just messing around, but the guards are unimpressed. Among them is a liaison officer who quietly collects statements from witnesses. Many are eager to share their account of the shove that left a hush over the courtyard. Michael's friends look away, worried about the legal consequences. They're no longer in the mood for laughs or shock value. The palace stands tall, as it has for centuries, a silent observer of both heroism and folly. For Michael, The unraveling of his image happens swiftly. Footage of the incident floods social media from multiple angles. The push, the guards stumble, then the measured but eloquent response. In each clip, it's Hayes's calm words that resonate. Online communities, ranging from veterans and military families to everyday people who value respect, praise the guard for his restraint and dignity. Major news outlets pick up the story, focusing on the guard's demonstration of moral strength. The tide of opinion heavily favors Hayes, while Michael's brand is tarnished almost overnight. His sponsors release statements condemning violence and disrespect, quietly distancing themselves from him. Former fans who once found his stunts entertaining now see him in a far different light. Some genuinely feel betrayed, while others claim they never really supported his antics. Michael, once confident in his online empire, is now faced with thousands of negative comments, unsubscribes, and calls for a public apology. But even an apology might not undo the lasting impression of someone who physically assaulted a uniformed guard for the sake of a few viral moments. While Michael deals with his downfall, the guard returns to his station in the following days. The ceremony continues as always, and Sergeant Hayes, unwavering, resumes his silent duty at the palace. Yet something has changed. Tourists approach with more reverence, as though they've collectively learned a lesson about the solemnity behind the pristine uniforms. Children wave timidly, and a few older veterans stand a little straighter, saluting the guard who so powerfully reminded everyone of their shared values. Even though Hayes remains quietly at his post, the silence surrounding him seems charged with newfound respect. News crews try to catch a glimpse or another statement from Hayes, but he politely declines. He understands that he said what needed to be said. Any more, and it might dilute the message. The palace issues a short statement supporting the guards' actions and reiterating their policy against harassment of ceremonial soldiers. As for Michael, he issues an apology online, but the public's memory of that violent shove and the guard's firm words is not easily erased. He watches as his influence wanes, attempts at damage control overshadowed by the story's momentum. Weeks later, in classrooms and households across the country, children see the viral video played by parents who use it as a lesson in empathy and respect. Educators discuss it as part of lessons on civic responsibility and the importance of kindness. Veterans share it in their social groups, expressing gratitude that someone in uniform spoke up not just for themselves, but for the memory of those who can't. The calm resilience Hayes displayed becomes a touchstone for conversations about what true strength really is. Life at the palace returns to its regular patterns. The changing of the guard remains a beloved spectacle, and tourists continue to arrive with cameras and curiosity. Sergeant Hayes never sought fame, only to fulfill his responsibility. Each morning he inspects his uniform with the same care. Each day he steps out into the courtyard, standing with that unflinching posture. He once again becomes a silent guardian, but now, in the minds of many, he also symbolizes the unbreakable bond between self-restraint and genuine honor. Days or even years from now, those who witnessed or heard of that moment might recall how a tourist's shove was met, not with anger or violence, but with a calm, clear statement of what the uniform truly represents. They might remember that respect is not forced. It's earned often in quiet moments when no one expects a lesson to be given, and they might find themselves pausing, in some future situation where they face disrespect, to consider a measured response rather than an impulsive one. True strength, after all, doesn't lie in overpowering someone else. It shows in the ability to stand firm in principles without resorting to brutality. It's found in those who quietly endure and still manage to speak a timeless truth when finally pressed beyond endurance. That was the gift Hayes offered that day, a reminder that behind every uniform or position of service is a person who has walked through sacrifice and emerged with a faith in decency that outlasts the mocking jeers of those who fail to see the bigger picture. Respect is earned through understanding, humility, and a willingness to recognize the sacrifices made by others. Have you ever been in a moment where dignity shone brighter than confrontation? Share your experience below. And if you cherish stories of composure and strength, stay connected here. Because in a world easily dazzled by loud, fleeting moments of arrogance, we need these reminders that honor, the quiet, steadfast kind, will always outlast the roar of an inflated ego.